Yay, final wrap up. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christina, aka Northwest Reader, and this is going to be my December wrap up. This is a little early for me. I usually film these like the very last day of the month, but I think today's the 28th. Yeah, I figured I would just go ahead and film this because I'm going to be away on vacation, so I need to get this recorded and edited. So this month I read and listened to about 17 books. Right now I am almost done with the Netgalley book. I think there's another book that I'm almost done reading also, so I might have those finished in the next couple days, but we'll see. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how I finished up the year. I'm like around 123, 24 books or something like that read this year, which is so much more than I read last year, and I'm thrilled that I even made it to 100. So yeah, most of these books I read were ebooks or audiobooks that I listened to, so I don't think I even read any physical books. I'm looking at my books right now. I attempted to read one physical book and I ended up DNFing it. But yeah, let's get to the books. So the first couple books I actually finished this month, I did for the last video I posted, reading Jordan's recommendations. And I read The Troop by Nick Cutter and Lost Boy, The True Story of Captain Hook by Christina Henry. The Troop I gave 5 stars, I believe, 4.5, 5 stars, and then Lost Boy I gave 4 stars. I thought they were both really good. The Troop is very graphic and stuff. If you want to know more about my thoughts on the book in detail, just watch the vlog. I don't want to get too into it, but yeah, The Troop is just, it's about a group of boys who are in the Boy Scouts and they're on an island and they're gonna do some, like, earn a merit badge of some sort for survival or something, and then a man who is super sick comes to the island and bad things happen. And then Lost Boy is pretty much the story of how Captain Hook became Captain Hook, and it was actually really refreshing and interesting to see how Peter Pan is kind of an asshole, so I liked it. So the next book I finished is The Nightmare Room by Chris Sorensen. I gave that 5 stars. I think it was like 4.5, 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's a good, it's interesting take on a haunted house and ghosts and spirits and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool. It's about this couple who moves into the husband's hometown that he grew up in as a child, and they move into his childhood home. Ghostly things happen in the basement and stuff. It was really good. It's a trilogy, so I'm gonna continue on probably either next month or the month after that and just see where the story goes. I think it's just all set in the same town maybe, but different characters in each book. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's called the Messy Man series or Messy Men series. But really good. First time ever reading any of his books, and I was impressed. So the next book I finished for this month is The Trick-or-Treater and Other Stories by Briana Morgan. I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, something like that. Yeah, it's just a book of a collection of stories that she wrote, and it was really good. The cover is stunning, first off. This is her second book I've read. It's really good. It's a collection of different types of stories. The first story is pretty much what the cover is about, The Trick-or-Treater. One of my favorite stories in there was the shortest one, and it's interesting because I just wasn't expecting how it was going to end, and I think that's why it still sticks with me to this day. Yeah, it's just something about it. It just, ooh, it gets you to the core. But it's a really good book. You should definitely pick it up and read it. So the next book I finished is The Final Girl by Wol-vriey. I read this as an ebook. He actually contacted me on Goodreads asking if I would review it, and it took me a minute to get through, but that was mostly, I wasn't bored with it or anything like that. I was just, I don't know if it was because I didn't want the story to end, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It's about this group of women that are on a game show, a reality game show, and they have to compete to win like $24 million. And they're like in this underground, what do you want to call it? Underground playground kind of thing. And they have to survive, and they have to find the money, and then just pretty much survive. They have to take each other out, like kill each other. There's boogeymen and monsters all around the play area, so they have to survive. One of the things I was concerned about was the person who's like head of this weird reality TV show was saying how the boogeyman will like maim you, torture you, kill you, and or rape you. And I thought, I was like, oh gosh, no, not the rape thing, not the rape trope. Oh, I hate the rape trope to try to cause horror, you know, because especially against women, it just seems to be the thing a lot of authors gravitate to, which I mean, it is scary, but it's just, it's not a spoiler, but there aren't any rape scenes in it on paper or anything like that. There is some like sexual assault stuff, and yes, of course there's going to be a ton of trigger warnings, so be careful. But overall, I thought it was really entertaining. It was interesting. The monsters in it were kind of entertaining, and like at certain points you can't help but laugh at some of the people getting killed. I don't know, I compared it to like Hunger Games meets Cabin in the Woods, like that kind of vibe, and I was into it. It was pretty good. So the next book I finished, it was a novelette, and it's Hye-Young by Chris Zeid. I gave it 5 stars, I believe. It's a really short book, story, novelette. Chris also contacted me on Instagram, I believe, and asked if I would be interested in reviewing it, so I had to say yes. And it's only 34 pages. I really enjoyed it. It's pretty much about these aliens that contact Earth because their home planet is dying and everyone is dying on it. So they offer this thing they call Hye-Young, which is supposed to like cure all your illnesses, make you the best you that you can be, in exchange of being able to come to our planet and live here. And pretty much whatever happens from there on. And it was pretty good. I think my only thing that I was just like about was I wish it was just longer, I guess. Which, I mean, that's not a bad thing for readers to want a short story or a novella or anything like that to be longer, because the ending was like super exciting and interesting, but then it just stops and you're just like, no, why? I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a good novelette. So the next book I finished was actually an audiobook. I was approved on Netgalley, and it's The Divines by Ellie Eaton. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. It was like a coming of age, dual timeline story about this girl who went to this school, and it's pretty much for like the prim and proper rich kids, and they're called the Divines. It's about a girl whenever she went to the school, and the one timeline is her time at the school, and then the second timeline is her present day / future, where she's married and stuff, and she's telling her Divines story to her current husband. And again, like, the audiobook itself was really good. The person reading it, the narrator, did an amazing job. It was just kind of like, the beginning was super interesting. It captures your interest right away, but then like for the majority of the book, I just found myself just not interested in the story. not really caring about the story. I cared about one character that wasn't the main character, and then she was just treated like crap the whole time. So I was just not into it. I just think it wasn't for me. But I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't bad for any reason other than I just was kind of bored with the story. So yeah. So the next book I finished, I read as an ebook from my library, and it's The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. I gave it 5 stars. It's really good. It's a coming of age story about a young boy who's coming to terms with his like identity and everything about identity, race, sexuality, all of that encompassed within this character. And it was just such a beautiful story. And I love drag queens. I love the whole the whole community, and Black Flamingo is his persona as a drag queen. And just, it's written in prose, so it flows so nicely. I was surprised how long it was, but then when I saw it was in prose, I was like, oh, okay. So I just breezed through it real quick. It was written beautifully, and you can't help but love the main character. And yeah, I highly recommend it. So the next book I read with my friends from Quarantine and Read, and my one friend picked this book out because it was one of her favorites. It's Bound by Honor by Cora Reilly, I want to say. I gave it 4 stars. It's a mafia smut romance book. I was kind of surprised how much I enjoyed it, but it's my first mafia smut book I read, and I was impressed by the author's writing and just ability to tell a story that wasn't completely cliche on the mafia storyline or plot or anything like that. So I appreciated that so much. I enjoyed the characters in it. I thought the lead male, Luca, sounded very attractive. And I enjoyed the main character, which I can never remember her name. She was like, I enjoyed her, but I can just never remember her name. Aria. I enjoyed the main character, Aria, and her whole family, and she has 2 sisters and a younger brother, and the dynamics of all of them together. Yeah, it's pretty much about Aria being essentially sold off to another mafia family in order to bring Chicago and New York, I want to say, together. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's about just her going through that, and then there's actually some interesting, cool, violent scenes between like shootouts and stuff like that. So yeah, I was enjoying it, and the sexy scenes were pretty sexy, not gonna lie. So the next book I finished, I actually put it on my TBR for this month because it was a book I was supposed to read last year. I have it on my TBR video for last month or earlier this month, but it's called The White Elephant by Trish Harnato, I want to say. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. This was a Netgalley e-arc, by the way. But it's just about this lady who has a lot of money, and she has a business, a real estate business, and she puts together this white elephant Christmas party every year, and for her employees and for some of the people she's trying to sell like really nice houses to. And it's a big deal, but a mystery is happening with her and her company and her husband, and it all comes to blows at this white elephant party. It was a tad bit predictable. It was just like any other mystery, kind of thrillerish, but the reveals you kind of figure out pretty quickly, like early on in the book, and the ending was just, I don't know. I don't want to say it wasn't believable, but it was just convenient, I guess. I was kind of bored with it. I mean, I'm happy I got to read it, and get it off my list, but it was kind of a snoozer. So the next book I read this month is In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren. I thought it was just okay. There's so many people that really loved this book, and I was really interested in the whole aspect of this girl reliving her last few days at this vacation home with her family and her family's friends, having to relive it every time she died. So it's just like Groundhog Day, but with Christmas time. And I thought it was okay. I did enjoy the romance in it, but how they summed up everything and solved the problems, which was, the epilogue is the typical Christina Lauren ending. I think I've read 2 of their other books, and I was just like, okay. I mean, it was sweet and I get it, but I was just like, ugh. And I was just a little disappointed. Like, I know a lot of people who didn't really care for the book said it was like super repetitive and it was boring because of repetition, because she would have to go back and redo things and go back and redo things. I didn't think there was enough of it. I wanted more of the like going back in time element, you know, but I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. 3.5. It was fine, but it was a little forgettable, quite honestly. And I enjoyed the main character, but at the same time I was just meh. It was okay. So the next book I finished is called The Hole. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really good. Even though I never read Misery by Stephen King, it kind of gave me that vibe. I've seen the movie, but it's about this man who gets in a car accident, accidentally kills his wife, and then he's paralyzed and stuck at home. So his mother-in-law takes care of him, and then she just goes off on the deep end, and crazy things happen. I thought it was really good, and the ending was just jarring. Like, it was just unsettling, and I loved it. But it was a really quick read, because you're just reading from his perspective the whole time, and I just love the twists and stuff like that. I don't want to reveal anything or spoil anything, but you should definitely read it. It was worth it. So the next book I finished, it was an audiobook from Netgalley and ARC, and it's The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I gave it 4 stars. Yeah. I thought it was decent. It's a good domestic thriller. Just pretty standard. The very end, I love the twists and how crazy of a storyline it was. Yeah, it's about this girl who is down on her luck. She came from nothing, and then she starts walking dogs in this really rich neighborhood, and she comes across this man who is single. His wife ended up disappearing. Yeah, she disappeared with her best friend off of this boat. They found a boat, they couldn't find them. Yeah, no bodies. So he was single, and then they end up getting together, and there's this whole mystery behind his wife's disappearance and stuff like that. So based off of the title of the story, you can kind of have an idea of what kind of is going on. But I thought it was decent. The audiobook itself was done really well. Just your entertaining domestic thriller type thing. I didn't mind it. It was just, like, now thinking about it, it's kind of forgettable because I've read quite a few domestic thrillers, and it seems like they all have the same tropes and cliches and stuff like that. So if I gave it 4 stars, I might knock it down 3.5, but it wasn't too bad. And I believe this comes out January 5th. So keep an eye out. So the next book I finished was actually another audiobook. I like to have an audiobook ready to go at all times, ebook, and then normally a physical book, but lately I just haven't been picking up physical books. I've been all about my ebooks because of just all the ARCs I've been getting and people contacting me to read the books for reviewing, so that's why. But the audiobook that I did finish was Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson, and I gave that 5 stars. 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's about these two girls who are really good friends in school, and then they lose connection. I mean, they still keep in touch, but they're not super close. And then the one girl, she like was successful and she has a lot of money. She contacts her friend who doesn't have that much money and lives at home still, and was like, hey, can you be a nanny to my husband's 2 kids? They're twins, and they have this very rare disease where they combust into flames, and they don't know why they do it, but they do it. The kid's mother, birth mother, had passed away, so her friend accepts because she needs to get out of her mom's house. But the story itself was really good, and just seeing how the friend, Lillian, I believe is her name, the friend, how she builds this tight bond and relationship with these 2 kids, and trying to figure out how they can control their emotions and combusting and stuff like that. So it just has a lot to say about friendship, family, found family, love, unconditional love, and stuff like that. And I heard mixed reviews, but I thought it would just be like, okay, but I really enjoyed it, and I became super attached to the storyline, like super attached. So yeah, I think I would recommend it. So the next book I finished was Polybius by David Irons. I gave it 4 stars. I actually finished this recently. Yeah, it takes place in the 80s, and it's about this arcade, and a machine that's all black arcade machine just shows up and it possesses people pretty much. There's a whole lot more to that, but I don't want to spoil anything. And you're following multiple people, multiple perspectives, and it was decent. It was really creepy. It had some really scary moments, and it was just so 80s horror film. Like, I don't want to say the one movie that it reminded me of, especially the ending, because it's pretty similar ending, but it was very reminiscent of movies that I loved as a child from the 80s, horror movies, so I liked it. This is my first David Irons book too, and there's trigger warnings, of course. There's a lot of body horror and gore, and one scene in it just like unsettled me to where I didn't even want to read the details. I just scanned. Like, 2 little kids get mowed over by a car, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't handle it. After having a child myself who's 1 year old, I can't read anything dead kids killing kids, dead babies killing. I just can't handle it. It just breaks my heart. So I just like kind of skim. So you've been warned. And there is a little bit of rape on the page for one little moment, but I figured I'd just let you know. And yeah, there's a bunch of other trigger warnings, but those are the ones that stood out the most to me. And also just a lot of violence. A lot. But yeah, 4 stars. So the next, it's considered a short story, but the next one I finished was Alfie and the Dead Girls by Jamie Stewart. I had this on my Kindle for a while. I don't remember how I came across it or anything, but it sounded interesting. It's just about this guy that abducts kids, which I know I literally just said I don't like to read anything about bad things happening to kids, but luckily this wasn't so bad. I don't want to give it anything away because it's like 39 pages or something like that. So yeah, you just follow this family, and there's a little bit of courtroom drama in it, which I normally don't care for courtroom stuff whatsoever, but this is just minuscule courtroom drama, so it wasn't too bad. But I enjoyed to me it was a little bit of a twist how something went about, and I appreciated it, because you don't really read this type of stuff or this flip of things. It's hard not to just spoil it. But overall, I think I gave it like 3.5, 4 stars. It was decent. I don't know if I'll remember it, but it be memorable for future self, but I thought it was okay. It wasn't bad. And then the last book I will say that I finished in the month of December was Bloodlust, a novel of obsession, desire, and massacre by Dan Chadwick. Give it 4 stars. This one is about a guy that is obsessed with this lady and her daughter. More so the lady, the mother. The very beginning of the book is bloody, and it hooked me in the very beginning, because that's how you get me, is the very first few pages. If there's immediate violence or horror or anything like that, I am in it. It didn't take me very long to read it. It's not super long either, but it was easy and digestible. And yeah, it's just about him stalking the family, and then when the mom goes out on a date one night, he attacks. He goes on a rampage, and holy moly, does he ever go on a rampage. This book is very reminiscent of like the Friday the 13th or Halloween, where the killer just will not die, and just the way that the killer kills people is the entertaining part of it all, in my opinion. Or the one murder is very graphic and unsettling and violent, so trigger warnings there, because there is some sexual assault done. And what? I was just shocked by it, because I've never read anything like that before. I've read some really gruesome stuff, but this was pretty gruesome, and it just fits right along with the woman who is even remotely sexual or promiscuous is the one that gets punished the most. So yeah, and that was how the films and stories from the 80s, 70s, and 80s, I mean, granted, all of history, let's be real, but that was made popular by the Friday the 13th and the Halloweens. It's still, it just fits that formula. And even though it was like, ooh, it was still entertaining, it was spooky, it was creepy, and to me, the scariest thing is not like the monsters or creatures or anything like that. It's more so of a basic human being that evil and just wanting to hurt you or your loved ones, and that's just so unsettling because you just don't know. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty good. Also, he contacted me on Instagram and he asked for an honest review from me for an e-copy of the book, so I had to do it. And I will probably finish at some point this month is a Netgalley audiobook called Lola on Fire, which is, it's a thriller for the majority of it, I would say, and it's kind of like a mafia detective-y thriller, and it's okay. It's about this kid. Well, he's not really a kid, he's like in his 20s, I believe, maybe 30s, and he just gets sucked into this scenario where the mafia is tracking him down, and he gets blackmailed and just a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, because the best thing you can do is go into this not knowing a whole lot, and you'll find the majority of it entertaining. About in the middle of the audiobook, I was getting a little bit bored, but now it's finally picking up again. So right now I'm riding at like a 3.5, 4 stars, and it could possibly get a higher rating if this ending is just mind-blowing, but right now it's just like 3 to 4 stars. It's mediocre. It's okay. I'm listening to The Stand currently. I'm like at 10%. I don't know when I'm gonna finish this. This is one of those audiobooks where I'm gonna put it on and listen to it while I'm cleaning or doing dishes and stuff like that. So I'm not in a hurry to finish it. I picked it up mainly because, one, my husband loves the book, and two, we're watching the TV show, and thank goodness my husband has read the book, because I was so confused by the first episode, and then the second episode people were saying is just awful. So ugh, not surprised. And I'm about, I think, 40% into a book that I wanted to read from my TBR that I was supposed to read a year ago, and it's 1 Week Till Christmas by Belinda Myson. Yeah, it's okay so far. It's just your standard romance. I was really into it when I first picked it up, but then I kind of was just like, eh. And I've been reading other books, but my goal is to finish it within the next couple days so I can just like knock it off my list. And then I started a little bit of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. I haven't been in the best mindset this last month, even though I read a lot, which is a miracle, but December is my worst month of the year because of I have a lot of loved ones that passed away this month, and just this year has been awful. So I've been pushing. I want to read this book so bad, but I'm just scared it's gonna just wreck me completely and push me over the edge, and then I'm just gonna be super depressed, and I don't feel like being super depressed. But I just dabbled in it a little bit. I'm like I'm not 100 pages in. I'm like 50 pages in or something, and it's decent so far. It's just meh. I'm scared. And one book that from my TBR that I tried to get into and I ended up DNFing is Serpent Dove. I tried to read the physical book because I do have it. I couldn't get into it, so I'm like, okay, I'll try audiobook. Tried the audiobook, and I just found myself not caring at all about the story or the characters. Like, not at all. Like, usually I'll have like one or the other that will like keep me interested or wanting to continue, but this was just nothing. So sad. But I'm gonna keep the book. I'm keeping the book, and then maybe, because my reading tastes have even matured, has changed even within the last year. So maybe in a year from now it'll change to where I can handle a fantasy-ish book. I don't know. I tried, but it's one of the few DNFs I did this year. So yeah, those are all the books I've read in the month of December. How many books were you able to read? Did you guys get a lot of books for Christmas, for the holidays? I got a decent amount from people that I'm friends with online in the booktube community and the book community in general online, and I really appreciate it. I'm gonna do a haul video next month after the holidays and everything, and just show you what I got. And I was just super lucky and just so, dare I say, blessed to receive books and gifts from people when I'm not really able to give back. I need to get a job. This pandemic needs to just be over with so I can get a job. Anyways, again, thanks for watching, and yeah, you'll be hearing from me. Thank God 2020 is almost over.